Today is going to be extra peaceful no matter what, because today I'm making lavender soap. Okay, hey y'all. So we are working on a lavender soap today, and I've just poured my lye in with my oils and starting the blending process. I actually ended up blending this particular batch a little too much. I don't know if it was because I had a week or two off from making soap and I kind of forgot that you don't need to blend that much, or it might have just been that I was focused on the camera and making sure that everything was recording and that I had it set up correctly and all of that jazz. So anyways, I did end up with really thick batter by the end, but I was able to sort of think on my toes and go with the flow. I didn't have too particular of a plan in place for this batch. I just knew that I wanted it to be purple and white, and I wanted there to be a swirl throughout the soap bar. So yeah. So there I'm adding a little more white to the white color and continuing to stir that in. That white that I have, it takes a lot of mixing to get it mixed in like well and without, slurries happening. So that was also part of the reason why I had to blend it so much. But anyways, it all worked out in the end. You'll see in a little bit. And I did 2 different purples, but they actually turned out to be sort of the same. So that was fine too. This one sort of was a practice in thinking on my toes and just going with the flow, because the batter was, as you'll see, pretty thick by the end. So here I am adding my fragrance oil after everything's all mixed in well, and then I'm going to mix that in too. Okay, so finally everything is blended. So here I am, because I am still using sort of rudimentary tools, homemade boxes with liner, freezer paper liner, to do my pours in. I sort of have an odd setup, so please forgive that. It's not the most aesthetically pleasing, but I need to have something holding the box on either side, and so that's why I have one side pushed against the counter and the other held by one of the boxes that normally sits on top of my refrigerator. It holds my portable stove. So anyways, those 2 hold the box in place, and it doesn't allow the sides to bow out, and that makes my soap stay. It helps me keep the sides straight, basically. is what I'm trying to say. So, anyways, I've got the first layer poured, and the second layer is just a layer of long stripes. And I'm going to do that with each of the colors that I have. And by this time I was already realizing that the batter was going to be a little bit more difficult to work with than I'm used to. I'm used to having it much more fluid than this. This is by far the thickest that I've ever gotten my batter. And so I decided to just spoon it out so that I could still have a little bit of control over the width and how much soap was coming out at a time. So I'm doing horizontal lines now, all down the soap with each color. And my hope was that by doing alternating lines with each color, even though the soap was going to be really thick still, I was still hoping that I would be able to achieve some amount of swirl in the soap once all was said and done. So that's what you'll see me do. I'm gonna continue to stripe the soap vertical and horizontal until I don't have any left. Or, well, actually, until there's a little bit left, and then I'll have some for the top. And this was a little bit tricky because getting the soap all the way to the edges, it didn't quite want to go, so I sort of had to force it, and was hoping that I wouldn't mush the colors together too much so they would stay separated and not get too muddy. But throughout this whole process, I was able to stay very peaceful and very calm because of the lavender fragrance oil that I used. It's called Peaceful Lavender, so it's lavender, which is already peaceful, and I guess they added an extra element of peace when they put the bottle together. So it's very calming. It's a beautiful scent, and I'll definitely be ordering more for future batches. Alright, so by now I have all of the striping layers that I'm going to do, and I've taken a wooden stick and gone around the edges just to sort of smooth everything out. And to try to make swirls, I am using a hanger, and I just take it down all the way close to the bottom of the batter and bring it up and sort of make little loop-de-loos or swirls inside the soap. And it's a little tricky because you can't see what you're doing, but you just sort of move it around. And with this one, I moved it around a lot more than I have in past batches because I knew that the batter was already so thick and it would be pretty difficult to move it, because by this point it was almost already starting to just set up and harden up. You can see how thick that batter is right there. So with the hanger, I moved it around a lot more to try to create some type of swirl, but not muddy the colors too much. So that's what I did, and then I decided I'd do the rest of the white color, which looks yellow there, but it does end up being sort of creamy white later. I tried to spread that out as best I could over the whole loaf. So I would have one layer of thin white, and then the rest of the purple would go on top for the top layer. So after I got the last of the white put in, I decided I would try to move the batter around a little bit more by using my little wooden stick, just in case I could make a little more swirling action happen and include that white layer that I had just put down. So after that, I am putting on the last of the purple. And I was hoping to have a little more left for the top so I could make a prettier, sort of a pretty decorative top. But I didn't quite have as much left as I was hoping. So I sort of had to make do and think on my feet again. And so right now I'm just still trying to get all of it out and spread it evenly without muddying too much with the white underneath. So I did my best to get it to all the edges and make the top layer as smooth as possible so that I could figure out what I wanted to do for sort of decorating the top. And I think I tried to do, oh, that's right. Yeah. I had to bang out. It's good if you are making soap to, once you have everything poured, to sort of bang the box or the container that you're using down. Some people do it like they drop it on the floor. Not drop it, but they sort of let it land heavy on the floor and that's to get out any air bubbles. So, I've gone through with my little wooden stick again, and then I decided to try to do some sort of spooning decoration. And so I haven't really been able to do this to my liking yet on a batch. Every time I try to do it, I see all the other YouTube soap makers do this with their spoon, and theirs look so pretty, but I just don't like it every time I try to do it. So the same thing happened with this one. You can see I'm just erasing that and starting over, and that's fine. You can totally do that. So I just took my wooden stick again and went back through with little swirlies, vertical and horizontal. And by that time, the batter was getting so hardened up that I knew that I just needed to not touch it anymore. So, oh, I didn't like that side. So I guess I had to redo one side just a little bit. Sometimes I just can't stop messing with the thing, and that's usually when I screw something up completely. So you have to know when to stop. Okay, so I finally did stop messing with it. And this is the next day after I've taken it out of the mold. And everything turned out okay. I did have a little bit of soda ash on the top, but I was able to get most, if not all of that off with just a little bit of water spraying and isopropyl alcohol spray. Usually does the trick. If the soda ash is really stubborn with coming off, you can always spray with isopropyl alcohol and then use a paintbrush to sort of brush that away, and that'll usually do it. So here I am cutting off the end pieces, trying to be very steady with my hand and make straight lines with my knife. And so there's the inside. I was able actually to get some decent swirling going on, even though the batter was really thick. And probably if I hadn't gone through with the hanger and the wooden stick so much, I wouldn't have gotten hardly any movement. So I was pretty happy with how it turned out, given the thickness of the batter that I ended up working with. So there we have the end pieces off, and you can see that I did have some air bubbles still in this loaf. Even though I slapped it around and banged it on the stove, I still ended up with air bubbles, and that's, I think, because the batter is, again, so thick. But that's okay. Air bubbles are not the worst thing ever, and they don't cause any harm to the soap, and neither does thick batter. Thick batter is fine as far as the end product of the soap goes. It just makes it more difficult to do a cool design, or to have, the control that you want to over the design in the process. So here I am using a little ruler to measure out where I want my cuts to be on the loaf, and then I'm gonna chop her up. there she is. The soap is called Lavender Trails, and the scent is just amazing. It's probably one of my favorites so far that I've made. So, if you have any questions, let me know, and she'll be up in the shop really soon. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to y'all real soon. Take care.